Help me. Help me. Help me. Help me.
Help me. Help me. Help me. Help me. Help me. Help me.
Help me. Help me. Help me.
Help me. Help me. Help me.
Help me.
Help me. Help me. Help me.
Help me.
Help me.
Help me.
Help me.
Help me.
Help me. Help me.
Help me. Help me.
Well, so good having all of you connect with us today. My name is Chris, and we're in the fourth and final part of this series, Help. And the question that we've been asking, the question that we've been answering, the question that we've been circling around is, well, what if the spectacle of the miracle wasn't the pinnacle? I mean, we have incredible stories connected to Jesus and his miracles, and so many of those are healings. I mean, lives were forever changed because he would heal people. But what if the spectacle of that miracle, the spectacle of that healing, wasn't the pinnacle part of what he was trying to teach? What if it wasn't the pinnacle truth that he was wanting us to hold on to? And so we've been, pulling to the surface, shining the spotlight on, the pinnacle. The pinnacle. In part one, we looked at this story of a demon-possessed man. Jesus casted the demons out of him into the pigs. The pigs go running down into the lake and they drown. I mean, you talk about a spectacle. And in that moment, the demon-possessed man, who is now completely healed, wants to get in the boat with Jesus. He wants to be with Jesus. He wants to be beside Jesus. He wants to go away with Jesus. And Jesus goes, no. Share your story. Share your story. And he did. And people leaned in to Jesus. You see, the focus isn't what you did, but who Jesus is and what he has done. Part two, we looked at these two stories that collided together, two stories that were 12 years in the making. And in both of these stories, a woman who was bleeding for 12 years and Jairus' daughter, who was 12 years old, who was extremely sick and dies. Jesus touches both of them, making himself unclean to make both of them clean. They're two vivid stories where Jesus chooses to take on their uncleanness. And in doing so, they become clean. And you see, that is the pinnacle. That is the redemption story where Jesus redeems, makes whole again, but sin has completely destroyed. And in part three, it's a story about four friends, and they were carrying their one friend who was paralyzed. They dig a hole in a roof and they lower him down. And Jesus goes, I see your faith. And he's healed. The question, the pinnacle question, is your faith visible? So many times we think faith is just an internal thing. It's at the soul level. And yes, there's a significant component of faith that is inside of us. But over and over again, Jesus pushes us to go, no, it's not just an internal, it's also external. That's why he goes, when I saw your faith, it was James, the brother of Jesus, that goes, hey, I'm going to show you my faith by what I do. That faith is, yes, inside of us and lived out externally. Is your faith visible? And all of this, leads us to, this fourth part, and we're going to look at one last miracle. But let's not get lost in the spectacle and miss the pinnacle. Now, before we get to this story, have you ever noticed something before? Have you ever wondered something before? Have you ever thought to yourself, or maybe it's just me, how selfish babies and toddlers are? I know some of you are like, Chris, you can't call a baby or a toddler selfish, but they are. I mean, we parents want our little kids' first words to be mommy or daddy, but usually their first words are something like no or mine. Or in my house, my wife started to teach sign language, and I think the first thing before our kids could talk, they learned the more sign language sign. They could do that. And they had it nailed. Like if they wanted more applesauce or more mac and cheese or more dessert or more, they knew this. And if you've ever been a parent of an infant, a toddler, you just know. I mean, they're pretty selfish. Now, I know they need us to feed them and to clothe them and to bathe them and to change diapers. I know that. But the older they get, have you ever found yourself, if you've parented through this stage, you know this is true. Have you found yourself as a parent, as your kids get older, you find yourself saying to them, when they ask, well, I'm hungry. Have you found yourself replying, well, I'm not your chef. Go fix your own food. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying, have you ever said that to your kids? Or when your kid goes, well, I don't have any clean whatever, clothes for school, clean uniforms, clean whatever. Have you ever said back to them, yeah, I'm not your maid. Go do laundry. In fact, for my wife and I, one of our goals as parents was to teach our kids how to cook and how to do laundry and how to do all those just basic life skills so that one day when they become adults, right, they're self-sufficient. So we started that probably at an even younger age. But I found myself as a parent going, hey, whoa. You can do stuff for yourself. And then at some point, as we've all become adults, there's a thought in the back of our minds. Maybe it's just my mind, but I don't think it's just me. Where I feel like, yes, I'm not selfish anymore. But here's what I started to wonder about as I prepared for this message. Do we learn to be less selfish as we become adults? The longer we're adults? Or do we just learn to disguise our selfishness? Or is it a combination of both? If it's a combination of both, what percentage would you put on the learning to be less compared to the learning to disguise? I was thinking about that in just in a personal reflective type of way, because I would love to say I'm learning to be less selfish, but then there's moments where as I've thought about this, I'm like, Chris, you're just pretty good at disguising it. Disguising it with humor, disguising it with sarcasm, disguising it in funny family jokes, but disguising. The most selfish person in our family is Lola, our golden retriever. Don't let her cuteness fool you. Don't let her adorableness fool you. She is the most selfish person. I have to feed her. I have to get her water. I have to give her ear scrubs. I have to pet her belly. She gets served hand and foot. She is not self-reliant at all. Yes, cute, but probably the most selfish person in her family. Now, I have found myself with my wife and my youngest daughter, and before my oldest got married and she lived in the house, she was included in this. I have found myself saying very vocally, very loud, with humor, with appropriate sarcasm, with a laugh attached to it, but I will look at Lola and say to Lola, hey, Lola, I'm the only one who loves you because I'm the only one who keeps you alive. And then I will list out all the things I do for Lola to keep her alive, like feed her, give her water, wash her bowls out, take her outside to go potty, give her ear scrubs, brush her, wash out her ears, make sure she's cared for in the morning, get the little eye boogies out of her eye. All the things I do to keep this adorable fluff ball alive. But in the back of my mind, is it me being selfless or selfish? Is it me learning to be less selfish, or is it me disguising it? You see, when we think about this, I'm not sure. Probably it's a lot more about disguising it than learning to be less. So let me ask you this. If there was a sliding scale between selflessness and selfishness, and if you would just sit down and think about these two extremes, the selfish extreme and the selfless extreme, where do you find yourself? I mean, in all areas. It'd be easy to cherry pick the ones we want, but I'm just talking in all areas. If we had to slide that scale, would you honestly be more selfish? Or do you find yourself becoming more selfless? And all of that sets up to where we're going in the Gospel of Mark today. We're going to be in Mark chapter 10. And we're just going to jump into the story. And this is what John Mark writes for us. He goes, then they came to Jericho. Now, Jericho is one of the oldest cities. And they come to Jericho, and we're told that it was Jesus and his disciples. And Jesus and his disciples were heading through Jericho, and they're heading to Jerusalem. The timing of this story is really important. You see, Jesus knew what was to come. You see, this was a trip where Jesus would ride into Jerusalem on a donkey, and palm branches were going to be waved as people celebrated Jesus. And this is a trip to Jerusalem where after everyone celebrates that he's there, he was going to get arrested, and he was going to be put on trial, and he was going to be crucified and placed in a grave. You see, Jesus knew what this final trip to Jerusalem was going to be. Of course, the disciples had no clue, but Jesus did. Jesus did. And together with a large crowd, they were leaving the city. And a blind man named Bartimaeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting there by the roadside begging. Now, John Mark gives us such a cool insight. He writes his name Bartimaeus, and then he says, oh, by the way, his name means son of Timaeus. And you see, this is a common kind of naming structure we see throughout the Bible. Bar meaning son, and then Timaeus meaning, well, of Timaeus, or of the house of Timaeus. We see in other times, we see like Barnabas' name, which means son of encouragement, or we see Bartholomew, which means son of Ptolemy, or the notorious Barabbas, which means son of Abbas. And so there's this guy named Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, and he was sitting by the roadside begging. And why was he begging? Well, because he was blind. He had spent his life sitting on the side of the road, can't see a thing, and just pleading as people would walk through the city for anything, for scraps, for loose change, for anything that they would give him. His entire existence was in isolation. His entire existence was being ignored. His entire existence was being an outcast. His entire existence was begging just to survive. And he would have been classified as unclean. Because remember, in that Jewish religious culture, either he sinned that caused his blindness, or a parent or a grandparent sinned to cause his blindness. And so he would have just been in this constant state of spiritual uncleanness. And we're told that when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, Jesus, Son of David. Now this phrase, Son of David, literally reflects that Bartimaeus believed that Jesus was the promised Messiah, the promised King. Not just Jesus Rabbi, Jesus Teacher, Jesus. No. He was like, Jesus, Son of David. Jesus, my King. Have mercy on me. Have mercy on me. Have mercy on me. And then we're told that many rebuked him and told him to be quiet. Can you imagine the crowds? Jesus and the disciples are walking through. Bartimaeus starts to cry out to Jesus, and all of a sudden the crowd starts to turn on him and say, No. Be quiet. Shut up. We don't want to hear your voice. Just stay there. Be the beggar that you are. Be the outcast that you are. Sit in your place. Can you sense the selfishness of the crowd? They tried to silence him yet again. But he shouted all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. And then Jesus stopped. And that's why the setting of the story is so important. Jesus stopped, knowing what was coming his way. Jesus stopped, knowing that his crucifixion was imminent. Jesus stopped for the one, the outcast, the beggar, the unclean. Stop for the one that the crowds screamed, shut up to. Jesus stopped and said, call him. So they, the crowds, called to the blind man. And I love this. I mean, just seconds before they were telling him to shut up, but now they're like, cheer up. On your feet. He's calling you. Put yourself in Bartimaeus' shoes just for a moment. One moment, the crowds are telling you to shut up. And then all of a sudden, Jesus speaks, and all of a sudden, the tone changes. It's like, oh, cheer up. And he's like, well, you just told me to shut up. Get on your feet. Jesus is calling you. Throwing his cloak aside, Bartimaeus jumps up to his feet, and he comes to Jesus. And Jesus asks him, what do you want me to do for you? What do you want me to do for you? Now, I think about that question. His mind had to be racing with an answer. But you see, we have to pause here. We can't miss what happened right before this story, this interaction between Jesus and Bartimaeus. You see, we go back just to verse 36. And in verse 36, Jesus asks the same question. What do you want me to do for you? But that question was not posed to Bartimaeus at that moment. It was posed to James and John. You see, James and John had come privately to Jesus, and they come privately to Jesus and said, "Teacher," they said, we want you to do whatever, to do for us whatever we ask. Teacher, whatever we ask you to do, will you do for us? And Jesus, in response to that, said, What do you want me to do for you? And you could sense that James and John, these two brothers, kind of looked at each other and like, wow, we didn't think you'd go for it. But he's asking us, what do you want? What do you want me to do for you? And so they answered Jesus. Let one of us sit at your right and the other at your left in your glory. Simply, this is what they were saying. Hey, Jesus, when you're king, when you've established your kingdom, when you're sitting on your throne, we want to be the number 2 and number 3 positions of power and influence in your kingdom. The right chair next to a king was like the number 2 position. The left chair right next to the king was the number 3 position. So James and John were like, hey, we want those 2 seats of power and influence. When you become king, can we have them? And Jesus responds and basically says, well, God's wrath is coming. You really don't want what's going to come my way. Well, as this is all happening, the other 10 disciples hear what James and John have asked Jesus, and we're told that they become indignant. Another way to say that is they become angry because they wanted the opportunity to be in the number 2 and number 3 seats of power and position and authority in Jesus' kingdom. They were indignant because how dare James and John ask for those seats? I mean, they should be considered as well. They become indignant and angry. Why? Because probably some of them were like, man, we should have gone to Jesus first about this. We didn't really think we could ask that, but if we would have known, we would have gone there first. So Jesus gathers them all together and leans in. And this is what Jesus says. You know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles, the kings leading the Gentiles, the non-Jews, the emperors leading the non-Jews, the tribal chieftains, the rulers of the Gentiles, lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Jesus was like, you all know, whether it was the Roman Empire, the Parthian Empire, you know history. Every king has done what kings do. They rule over. They position themselves over people. They press people down. He goes, you've seen it. In your lifetime, you've seen it throughout the annals of history. Kings do what kings do. And Jesus, looking at the 12, say, not so with you. Not so with you. That's not, Jesus says, what my kingdom's about. That Jesus' kingdom is the upside down kingdom. It looks completely opposite of any earthly kingdom. He's like, not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be slave to all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. Not so with you. You're called to live differently. You're called as leaders to lead differently. Your life must reflect differently. Not so with you. And I think in this moment, with Bartimaeus standing in front of Jesus, and Jesus asking Bartimaeus, what do you want me to do for you? What do you want me to do for you? And all of a sudden, I think Jesus started to make eye contact with James, and then with John, and then with Peter, and then with Matthew, and the rest of the disciples. Not so with you. And then Bartimaeus says, Jesus, Rabbi, I want to see. I don't want to be an outcast anymore. I don't want to be isolated anymore. I don't want to be overlooked anymore. I don't want to beg for my existence anymore. I don't want to be spiritually labeled unclean anymore. I want to see. And Jesus said, your faith has healed you. Your faith has saved you. And immediately he received sight, and he followed Jesus along the road. You see, where are you? Don't ignore this. Don't dismiss it. My prayer is that you actually wrestle with this. Are you becoming more selfless? Or are you just learning how to disguise your selfishness? Are you becoming more selfless, truly selfless? Or are you just learning how to manipulate your selfishness? When you're waiting in line, whether it's the grocery store or like those lines where they say 15 items or less, and there's always the people that have like 52 items. It's not like they have 16 items. It's not like they're one over. I mean, they have a basket full, and they're in the 15 item or less aisle. Are you becoming more selfish or selfless? Because in God's kingdom, when you're driving, where would you slide that scale? Are you more selfish, or are you becoming selfless? When the highway is coming down from 2 lanes to 1 lane, do you stay in that 1 lane as long as you can, cutting off as many people as you possibly can? Because for some reason you just think it's your right to cut off everyone until you just slam your car over because you have to. When you're driving and you're in a hurry, and you have all the excuses why you're late, you're becoming more selfish or selfless. In your job, in your work. And maybe you work for the laziest boss, the laziest manager ever to live. And you're going to try to talk yourself, oh, Chris, you just don't know my circumstances. You don't know my workplace. You don't know my boss. You don't know. But in Jesus' kingdom, it doesn't matter. Are you serving the people you don't want to serve? Or is it just all about you? At home. Do you have a heart to serve your kids, your spouse? Are you looking for opportunities to serve? Put the towel over your arm, scrub feet, serve. Or you're doing what I'm doing with the dog, with humor, with sarcasm. I'm the only one to keep the dog alive. But really inside, I'm keeping score of all that I'm doing. In marriage, this is what we're called to do in marriage. To try to outserve our spouse. I tell you, my wife and I have gone ups and downs in marriage. We've had some good seasons and some difficult seasons in marriage. But one thing I feel like in this season, we are crushing at it. We both are trying to outserve each other. Our lives are chaotic, work, leadership chaotic. I mean, just things are going 8 million miles an hour. I am watching my wife try to outserve me, and I'm doing everything I can to outserve her. And I tell you, when in a marriage, your goal isn't to scorekeep, but to outserve each other, I tell you, something beautiful spiritually happens between husband and wife. And in church. Do you just walk into church, get your donut, get your coffee, complain about the temperature, find your seat unless someone's sitting in your seat, and now you're complaining about the person who sat in your seat, but that's your seat. And then you leave early to get in your car so you can get off property so that, you don't get stuck in traffic. Is your entire church experience selfish or selfless? Where are you sliding the slider? It's a challenge for me. And Jesus said, when it comes to his kingdom, that we are to live differently. And Jesus says to me, and he's saying to you, not so with you. We're called to be servants. We're called to live a selfless life. We're called to live a life reflecting Jesus. And the cross is the ultimate picture of how selfless Jesus really was. Not so with you. Let's pray. Lord, I just ask that we'll live that type of life. In your kingdom, putting others first, serving, lifting up, seeking ways to be the servants that you have called us to be. In your name I pray. Amen.